For those of you who are new to this fic, this is a fic that I've written a little while ago. It is a cyberpunk AU that mixes up Beforus and Alternia. It's set on Alternia, but it has a lot of foreign traits to it, and it features a lot of the Dancestors. So, yeah, it's we're moving along on it. It's we're kind of at a down point in the story. They've just attempted a heist that ended very badly, and now they're kind of like being held captive by the beta trolls. This is chapter 17, In Keeping. Second day of the 12th bilunar perigee, Authority Safe House, North Alternian capital. Sister Mulin. That was what she'd always been to him, really. They had a bond that was hard to explain to outsiders. Something akin to mate spritz in many ways, but very different in others. Born out of shared trauma and pain, albeit from vastly different sources. Mulin and he had seen something in each other that connected them from when they had met. Mulin a chance to walk the road back from her past, and she gave him a touchstone when the world became too much to handle. Kurloz had walked with a certainty that was unshakable, that the mirthful messiahs would be there to guide him and help him protect the ones he cared about. Even if the road became dark and winding, they would exist as a grinning beacon of joy to help him along. Even after the last time, after the terror and death, he had still seen their guidance stretched out in front of him. It wasn't the end of the road, but merely another twist that would lead him off to the side, but then, inevitably, take him back again. It was the way of the mirthful ones. It had always been. They were gone. Either they had vanished, or they had never existed in the first place. Instead, the devil who spoke in the white text was all he could see. Kurloz hadn't told the others what he'd seen, because they didn't need to know. But the lines still burned white-hot in his memory.
Welcome. Mr. Makara, I know your proclivity for substances of the mind-altering nature, so I'll make this as brief and as simple as I can. I'm aware of your unique relationship to Miss Lejeune. I know how much you care for her. Your messiahs are a lie. There is a war coming. You will go with Arania Circuit when she comes to find you. You will help her. Then you will help me. Why will you help me? Simple. Because if you help me, then Mulin Lejeune lives a long and happy life. Maybe. And if you don't, Mulin Lejeune will die screaming in agony, definitely. Make your choice, Mr. Makara. Scratch.
Burning eye and the name of the devil still seared into his mind, Kurloz wandered the halls of the Authority Safe House. They'd been given free run of the place, which meant that it wasn't a permanent or important building. Authority members themselves, he'd seen at least 3 of them around, plus a handful of doctors and other support staff, all came and went seemingly at random. Matuna and Mulin were recovering in their own rooms, and Arania and Mina were around. A woman named Porum was here too, but she mostly kept to herself. They'd already been there 2 days, and Kurloz had seen her maybe once or twice when they were all given meals in the communal dining room. It reminded Kurloz strongly of the re-education center he'd been in as a Wiggler, before he truly gave his life over to the mirthful messiahs. Before he started on the road to their betrayal. Kurloz kept walking down the hallway, turning aimlessly. The building seemed to consist of a series of mostly empty rooms with a few basic amenities. In addition to their own rooms and the dining area, there were a handful of small office spaces that each had a telnet terminal in them. There was also a medical examination room that was kept locked unless the medical staff needed to use it. There was also a large common area with chairs, tables, and a shelf full of old books that Kurloz didn't have the desire or energy to look through. At the end of his wandering, Kurloz found himself in the common room. There was, as usual, no one there. No, that wasn't right. The Jade Blood woman, Porum, she was sitting in the corner of the room holding a book. But from her expression, she wasn't reading it. Kurloz walked over to her.
My jade-blooded sister, are you okay?
He asked bluntly. Subtlety, Kurloz had found, was highly overrated. Coram looked up at him, setting her book down in her lap.
I beg your pardon?
Are you okay?
Kurloz took a seat next to her.
You've talked to the devil.
The devil?
Coram raised an eyebrow.
I assume you mean Scratch?
Kurloz nodded.
The very same, my sister. The only one who talks in spaces between the Telnet void with his white burn lies.
Yeah.
She snorted and turned away.
I don't know you. Don't call me sister like I'm part of your damn church.
He blinked and looked at her. Most folks didn't talk to him like that. He knew they tended to find him either intimidating or off-putting, neither of which was conducive to pushing back against him. But this woman was different. She had a look about her that Kurloz couldn't place. If anything, it was like how those who'd seen into the ultra-black looked. Into the deep felt, out there on the edge of the stars. The void space where hidden terrors danced, just outside the edge of the Alternian mind.
What did he do to you?
Kurloz asked, his voice low and full of secret menace. Coram turned back and narrowed her eyes.
He killed the woman I loved. Had some hand in it.
She looked back away.
If you don't mind, I'd prefer you if you left me the fuck alone.
Kurloz wandered the halls some more, until he finally ended up outside the room where Matuna was still recovering. Peering inside, he saw that Matuna was sitting up in the bed and fidgeting with his hands. Kurloz stepped inside, and Matuna looked up with a smile.
Hey, Kurloz.
He looked like it hurt to even speak.
My brother.
Kurloz crossed the room and put a hand on Matuna's blanket-covered knees.
How do you feel on this day?
He couldn't bring himself to talk of the mirthful ones or any of those lies.
I'm not doing great. My head hurts so much.
He stared off, past Kurloz, off into something that wasn't really there. Something he'd seen a long time ago, in the deep void of space. Kurloz nodded, but didn't say anything else. Silence. Kurloz stood by the side of the bed and watched in silence as Matuna frowned and contemplated something from another place or time. Kurloz had always told himself that the Ultra-Black was something apart from the protection and light of the Messiahs, that it was something lacking. Now he suspected the truth, that the Messiahs had already turned their backs on him, long ago, whether or not they were even real. But the Ultra-Black was real. He'd seen the evidence firsthand in Matuna's eyes.
You saved me.
Matuna said quietly, his voice shaking.
Another few seconds, and...
He didn't finish the sentence because he didn't have to. Kurloz had never been inside the Felt, but he knew all the stories about what happened to Felt techs who burned out. How the brain turned to a barely functioning lump of lukewarm jelly, and they were never themselves again. Matuna went silent again. He frowned.
It wasn't like last time. Not exactly. That was more like... I don't know. It was like the difference between getting punched in the face and getting hit with a fucking sledgehammer.
He brought his hand up to his right eye and pressed in, wincing visibly.
God, if I never have to do that again.
Brother, should you never have been forced to do it in the first place?
Forced?
Matuna asked.
Who forced me? I made the choice to drop into the Felt.
Did you, brother?
Kurloz stared at Matuna until the troll dropped his eyes.
Pushed into the fleet by the Empire. Pushed to do what they said you are naturally good at. Pushed to open yourself up the ultra-black beyond the stars.
He saw Matuna gasp.
The what beyond the stars?
Matuna pushed himself up in the bed, his face. He knew what Kurloz was talking about, even if he wasn't willing to admit it.
Nothing, brother. You rest and don't worry about it.
Kurloz smiled, and Matuna seemed to relax again.
How is Mulin? They won't really tell me anything specific here, and I'm not allowed to get up and walk around until tomorrow.
He grimaced. This was obviously bothering him. Kurloz wasn't going to try to soften the truth. His void whisperer brother deserved to know the truth.
She was hurt. Her hearing is gone. But she's alive and still full of fight.
That got Matuna to smile a little.
Good. Good.
Another pause for silence. Another chance for Matuna to stare out into the blank space between what was and what wasn't.
Kurloz, he set us up. What are we gonna do?
Of course, the conversation would turn there eventually. Back to the devil who burned bright on the telnet, but remained forever out of view behind the dead screens. Kurloz felt himself bristle.
I don't know, my brother, but I'm meditating on it.
The word praying had been right on the tip of his tongue, but it felt so wrong to say that now. A spike of anger rose up inside of his mind, and he pushed it back down. It wasn't the right time. Yet. There was a knock on the doorframe, and Kurloz turned to see Latula standing there. She nodded to Kurloz.
You two busy? I need to talk to Matuna for a minute. Kind of a private thing?
No worries, Sister Latula.
Kurloz said with a nod.
I was just on my way to check on something else.
It was almost as if the Telnet terminal was calling to him. Kurloz knew that there was a terminal available in one of the rooms to the side, a general-use terminal in what amounted to a walk-in closet off to the side of one of the hallways. He wasn't even sure what the terminal was intended to be used for. There it was, just sitting there on a little desk. He sat down in front of the terminal, the orange glow of the screen blazing in front of him. Without thinking, he began to type.
You there, devil?
Wasn't sure why he felt the need to do this. Wasn't sure why he thought that the ether of the telnet space would allow him to reach out. He wasn't even sure if the terminal was connected.
I can see you there, Kurloz Makara. Not literally, of course. Not yet. But I can see you in the void space, as you're so fond of calling it.
You tried to murder them. Tried to kill my brothers and sisters.
Murder? You're so fucking simplistic. I made a calculated risk in service of a larger goal.
You lied to us!
Who? To you? I told you one thing. That Miss Latian had a chance at a long and happy life. I was unclear as to the specifics or probability. How did I lie?
She's hurt and the messiahs are gone!
Quite right on both counts. Actually, I'm fairly certain that the messiahs you speak of are wholly fictional.
Fuck you!
You know I can still help your friends, right?
Fucking liar!
Whatever. This isn't productive.
The terminal suddenly went blank, the traces of the words echoing for the briefest moment before they were lost. Kurloz screamed and smashed a fist down on the keyboard, sending keys flying in every direction.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeet.
We're like 6 chapters away from the first big twist. Or second big twist.
So Kelso, this is that fic that Janaya wrote in 2.5 months, and I'm just gonna, like I do about every time we read this, I'm just gonna scroll back up to the top just so we can take a peek see at this. So she started it last May, and she finished it in the middle of last July. 136,672 words.
I can't even count to that.
67 chapters.
I can't count to that either.
I think it's worth pointing out that the Hive Swap novels, which are both almost this length, were both completed in the same amount of time.
One after another.
I did one in a month, and then a few days later, I started the other, and I spent a month and a half finishing that.
Oh my god!
Back-to-back W's, boys.
Back-to-back W's, boys.
Mafa, I try to hit 2,000 words a day. I try to hit a chapter a day if I'm writing a novel. If I'm writing script and stuff, I just try to do at least 2,000 words.
And
this is like all I do. Yeah, it's my hyperfixation. It's all I do with my free time, and I don't sleep a lot.
Wow. You deserve a round of applause.
Oh boy, the next chapter is the first part of the really awkward conversation between Batula and Matuna.
That was fun. Thank you, Kelso.
Yes.
Nice.
But of course.
Kelso's laptop is right here. I mean,
Nice.
in another house.
Yeah. We're
Also,
in
thank
two
you.
different